right, good morning. Off to my typical parking lot. And just thinking last night. Yeah, I guess I'm getting a lot of my ideas from what to talk about. Just being in other groups and whatnot. But I think one of my biggest I don't even know what you would call it, but things I learned about running my own business is really having met other people has probably been one of the biggest things that made some of the biggest changes for us, or learning some of the biggest things for my company. And there's a couple instances. I mean, I remember having a really good conversation with someone about pricing, how we want to simplify things, simplify the products that we were offering, how we should increase our pricing. That was huge for us, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have a conversation with someone. Another one was like figuring out our funnel, our marketing funnel, how we drive everything towards a 5-day challenge now, a webinar, what do you want to call it, and then we funnel them into our product. That's been huge for us. I just realized a lot of the big things that we've done in the company have been because we've met other people, attending conferences and having conversations. And it only takes one conversation to really change the trajectory of your company. And the line that I hear and I use quite a bit is it's what is caught, not taught. And so I encourage you, if you get a chance to go to an event, share what you're working on, what's working well for you, and what challenges you're facing with other people, and bring value to the table for them as well. You'll definitely catch something that could completely alter your business. And that's why I try to meet up as many strangers in the city as I can, or now I'm setting up a mastermind of a few other founders that are within our same revenue group, so they're not too far off. I find that when you sort of speak to somebody who's way too ahead, it's hard to sort of implement some of the things that they're talking about, or the guidance that they might give you is really not the next step for you. But anyways, yeah, definitely one of the bigger things that I've taken away from being an entrepreneur or a founder. I remember I used to run another business prior to this. I mentioned this before, a content membership business. Never really met much people other than our instructors, but anybody else in the space within like content membership. I did meet, I guess a few people locally here. No, actually I did. Yeah, I did meet a couple people, and they also made some huge changes in my business for me. Thinking about that, yeah, I've got some good friends that I met this way too. I feel kind of shitty, but it's been a while though. Yeah, anyways, meeting people, hugely important. On my plate today, as I sort of bring you along the journey here, I'm not sure you care, but I've got more than half of my day is sales calls today. And it's funny, now that I have my salesperson following me along, it's really gotten me really thinking about, how do I wrap up the call? How do I close? Yesterday I faced a situation where like I would have probably forced him into an onboarding set, like to the next to the person that was closing on, to a demo and try to close on them, but I knew deep down they weren't ready, so I kind of like I didn't anti-sell them on it, but I got them onto my challenge instead, where even though they may not be ready for a product, they would certainly be ready for my challenge because they can apply it to whatever they're learning to their current business. They're basically the client or the lead was still in another industry but related to ours, and what I teach in the challenge is still very applicable. So yeah, I got them in there. But anyways, yeah, having my new salesperson sort of tag along with me now, it's kind of put me on full awareness on how do I conduct my sales calls. The way that I run my sales calls, for those that are wondering, I do not go, or demo calls I call them, I do not go into the product. I found that it just is really, really confusing for anybody to step into a complex product, and they're not really there yet. So our sales cycles are pretty short, typically like only a 1 call, 2 call type of sales cycle. So I spend most of my 40 minutes, and I found 40 minutes is a sweet spot for me. I tried doing half an hour, couldn't do it. Tried an hour, it's just too long. So 40 minutes is a sweet spot for me, but I'll do some discovery, understand their top 3 pain points, and then I'll walk them through the product or some features that address those pain points. So I really try to dig in to figure out why are they on this call, what are they struggling with, what are they hoping to hear, what kind of pain points or what kind of setup do they have. Those will kind of unveil or reveal the pain or that they're currently struggling with, however they're doing things. So I'll then talk about our product, how it serves them, especially around those 3 areas, sometimes 2. And then I may go into the product a little bit and show them around. And then afterwards, I'll get them to understand how we sort of onboard them. So we've got a few things in place, and then I'll register them to our onboarding session, which is, I call a work-along session. They have to have a free trialing account. So it gets them to that next step without having to do a hard close on them and get them because they're not ready. So the onboarding session is really well. If they reject or they're not interested in it just yet, I don't have a follow-up process because I just don't have time to do all the follow-up as a founder. My salesperson will, or I might get them into my challenge a little bit like I did yesterday. So yeah, that's how I run my demos. Again, I don't go in and show screens and press buttons because it'll just confuse the heck out of them. Anyways, more than half my day, five demo calls today, so maybe 6. Okay, I am exhausted. I did 6 calls today, demo calls, and yeah, I have my new sales guy, watching, and I want him to give me feedback, but I don't know why I feel extra nervous with him around, and because he comes from a sales background, and as a founder, I don't have any sales background. It's all sort of just, I learned it on the go, and yeah, it was interesting just having him back there, and I just feel so shitty doing these sometimes. But there are certain things that I realized that I think I do not too badly. And I was sort of explaining to my new sales hire, I was like, I was a little bit weak on like knowing what the call to action is, because sometimes like I feel like they're not a good fit, and I'll just let this call go. But I really made an effort to see what other resources was available to drive them towards, and at least keep them in the funnel and keep them nurtured and attached to us. So I have a challenge starting next week, and I got them in there, and that was one thing. And the other thing I think I do pretty well is like I get asked like, what is the pricing of your product? And it's so funny because like the pricing is there on our website, and I never. One of the strategies that I go by is I never shy away from the pricing. I will immediately tell them the average pricing, and I push it up a little bit more expensive. So I'll be like, yeah, it's $250 a month before I even start screen sharing the pricing page. And then I come to the pricing page, and they realize, oh, the mid-tier plan is actually $227, but if you paid monthly, it's $250. So I'm not exaggerating, I'm not lying or anything, but it does set that anchor at a lot higher. And then I come and say, hey, you certainly can start on that starter plan, and you can migrate into any plan at any time. You'll get prorated and so on, so on and so forth. But I find a lot of times, like when I do things like webinars or like like when I'm talking about pricing, I used to kind of like my tail kind of goes behind my between my crotch and I kind of get all nervous and stuff. And one thing is like the best thing to do is just put it out there immediately out in the open, and there's nothing to hide, and so then there's nothing to feel nervous about. It took me a long time to figure that one out, but it's a little thing that I've learned that worked really well. Then there's no surprises. We do try to be as transparent as possible, and I hate it when you sort of see a product that's like, yeah, book a demo to see the pricing. I get it. Some products are more custom priced and whatnot, but I do try to be as transparent as possible. And if I have to, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, just be as transparent as possible. I'm exhausted. Sometimes it's like when you're at work, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like all I'm doing is like I'm sitting on calls back to back to back. And as a founder, like, is this where I'm supposed to be putting my time in? And it's not like we've got the biggest team either. It started with between me and my co-founder when we started, and I used to do a lot of calls like this. And I'm coming up to almost 4 years of sales calls, and I'm not formally trained, but I think I've learned a lot, and I've listened to a lot, and I've listened to what other people have talked about, and I think I've learned a bit. But I think it's so important also as founders to really, before you do hire for anybody, really understand the processes and understand the nuances, because you're the only one who is going to understand some of those nuances through your own experience, and that has been really, really powerful. As I was talking to the sales hire, that he's giving me feedback, just saying, yeah, I noticed you use a lot of personal anecdotes and stories and whatnot, and it's really powerful, but my salesperson does not have that. So now we have to kind of think through, like, okay, cool, you don't have that. So what sort of an angle would you come from? What other areas can we really, communicate to make sure you're as powerful? And my goal right now is to give him as much as I can so that he can win. And so, yeah, we're kind of thinking through some of the nuances, because a lot of the nuances and the power that comes from a founder-led sales is that we have the stories, we have the experience where a salesperson wouldn't. So it was just really interesting to work with my salesperson. I don't know what it's like to work with a salesperson. I've never done it before. I don't even know many people in sales. So still figuring this out. I mean, if anybody's actually watching this, but if you have any sort of tips or things that you want to pass on to me to be able to arm my salesperson with, or any experiences you might have, please throw in the comments below. Again, I don't know who's watching this, but it'd be really, really helpful. Anyways, that's what I know about sales. I'm exhausted. Man, I am ready to just go disconnect and take my kid to jiu-jitsu and maybe do a little bit more work tonight.